This is Rock and Roll English. Real people, real English.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Rock and Roll English. Unfortunately on today's show I don't have any interesting guests like Ethan or Chad from Real Life English, but I speak to Dan the Man again. In this episode, Dan the Man is feeling sick, although he says ill, which is the same thing, sick or ill. And he has a bit of a cough, which is this. I also have a cough, but I'm more of a man than Dan. Anyway, so Dan is ill, so he doesn't really speak very much, which is good, I suppose. But like a champion, he did the podcast anyway. So that is Dan. That is why he is the man. We speak about getting married in the podcast, not to each other, just weddings in general. Although we do actually mention getting married to each other as well. We also listen to two big tunes. And remember, a big tune is a very informal way to say a great song. So, you know, weddings, love, big tunes. It's going to be a great episode. Have fun. Dan the Man, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well. Obviously, the last time we did a podcast was, how long ago? 10 days?
Before you came to England?
Before I came... No, I was in England.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
In the same room when I looked at your horrible face. Now I have the screen to protect me. So today we're talking about something that you probably are an expert in.
What's that?
Weddings.
Yes. Well, no, of course not. Are you an expert in weddings? Neither of us are an expert in weddings.
Yeah, that's true. More or less like we're not experts on anything, but we normally talk about these things because we have nothing else to talk about. But I went to a wedding in England on Sunday, Easter Sunday. So I thought, let's do a podcast about weddings. So I'm an expert because I recently went to a wedding. If anything, I'm more of an expert than the bride and groom because I attended the wedding. Who are the bride and groom, Dan?
The husband and wife.
Yeah, the people that are getting married. So the groom is the man or the woman?
The man.
The man. And the bride?
The woman.
Yeah, process of elimination. Sure. Okay, so we're going to talk about the process of getting married. So when the man asks the woman, what question does he ask?
Will you marry me?
Are you asking me to marry you again, Dan? You already asked me that in another podcast. I told you no. Please stop trying. This is getting embarrassing. Okay?
I will never stop asking, okay?
Jokes aside, that is the correct question. Will you marry me? And from that moment, so before that moment, they are what?
Boyfriend and girlfriend.
Yes. And then after that moment, until the wedding, they are?
Fiancés?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, they become fiancés. Yes. And then before the wedding, a few weeks before, because we are a very cultured nation in England, the man has a stag party. Now, what is a stag party, Dan?
It's when the men involved in the wedding get extremely pissed.
Rock and roll vocabulary there, Dan. Get pissed is another way to say get drunk. Very English way there, and something that we like to do a lot. So the man has a stag party, and the woman has a...
Do you know what? I can't even think. I feel so ill.
This is the point where Dan now is trying to say how sick he is.
I am ill.
He has a cough. He has a cough, and this is a cough. I also have a cough, but I didn't mention it.
My cough is more serious, but the answer is hen party.
Yes, the answer is hen party. So the men have a stag party and the women have a hen party. And very similar to the men, they get pissed on the party. Have you attended many of these parties, Dan?
Well,
Not hen parties,
obviously not.
but stag parties.
I've been on a couple of stags, yeah. You?
Yes, many. I cannot remember enjoying one. I go mainly because it's normally a friend getting married, and I think, oh, he will probably be offended if I don't go. And there's a lot of people behaving like hooligans. In fact, on my brother's stag party, I met my brother at his house at 9 o'clock in the morning, and my brother and his friends were all drinking glasses of whiskey. Just whiskey.
In the
No
morning?
Coke, just 9 o'clock in the morning. And one of his friends, at 6 p.m., went back to the hotel, because normally a stag party is in a different city, went back to the hotel and pissed the bed. And what was funny, so when he pissed the bed, it's like do a piss to urinate. So he pissed his own bed like a 4-year-old child.
How old was he?
About 36. So he pissed his bed.
Is he listening to this?
I very much doubt it. I hope not. He's a big man. He'd probably kill me. So he pissed his bed. In each room there were 2 beds. So he woke up at, 9 p.m. and thought, this bed is all wet. So I'll go into the other bed, which was his friend's bed. And he pissed in that one too. So that is the kind of behaviour that happens at these stag and hen parties. The women are just as bad. Okay, so now let's move to the wedding, Dan. So it normally starts at about 12, 1.
Yeah, around then.
And then there's a very boring ceremony, usually.
Extremely boring.
Extremely boring. And then, do you take blah, blah, blah to be your husband? And what's the answer, Dan?
I do.
I do. Exactly. Then that's finished. And then everyone just basically gets pissed again.
You get extremely pissed at weddings, don't you? I've seen several photos of you ruining someone's wedding.
Yes, that is true. Rock and roll vocabulary again there, Dan. Very nice. To ruin, which is another way to destroy. I wouldn't say I ruined the wedding. I would say, if anything, I made the wedding, as everyone thought, wow, that guy with his shirt off, which is me, is so cool that I want to be his friend. So, but that didn't actually happen.
But you did take your top off.
I did take my top off.
That
yes,
did happen. Yeah.
That did happen. But there's a very interesting thing that happens in English weddings after dinner, which is the speeches. So at a normal wedding, we have 3 speeches. One is the father of the bride. And the next one is, Dan?
The groom.
The groom. But basically, the father of the bride says, thanks.
For stealing my daughter.
Yeah. No, he basically says, I'm happy for my daughter, blah, blah, blah. The groom, which is, remember, is the man, says, I love my new wife, blah, blah, blah. But the best speech is the last one. And who makes the last speech, Dan?
The best man.
The best man, exactly. Which is usually like the brother or the best friend of the groom. And the best man's job is to make people laugh like this. And to do this, he has to tell stories about the groom, some embarrassing stories. And then everybody laughs, and then everyone is ready to get pissed and take off their shirts on the dance floor. And the best thing about weddings is some of the music, because you can normally ask your friend to put some music on. For example, the wedding I went to at the weekend, we had music like this. So, do you like that song, Dan?
It's okay. 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10. You're crazy. It's a big tune. What about this one? What about this song, Dan? Out of 10?
9. A solid 9.
I would go 11 for that song. So yeah, and that's basically a wedding from start to finish. Everyone normally wakes up the next day feeling very hungover. So what does hungover mean again, Dan?
To make yourself sick from alcohol the next day.
Yes,
Were you hungover?
exactly. I was extremely hungover. In fact, the wedding was on Sunday. It's now Thursday, and I'm still hungover.
That's the sign of a good wedding.
Oh, exactly. Absolutely. Okay, so like all rock and roll English episodes, I've got some crazy facts about weddings, if you're interested, Dan.
Oh, yeah? Go ahead.
So, did you know, obviously, we call the finger where you put the ring when you get married the ring finger. Any idea why that was chosen?
Because isn't there a vein that goes directly to your heart?
Oh, boom shakalaka.
You didn't
Dan
think
the
I'd
man.
know that.
I didn't think you would know that. So just so the listeners understand that, a vein is one of the, tubes that carries your blood to different parts of the body. And there is a vein, apparently, that goes from that finger directly to your heart. And Dan the man knew that. I am very impressed. Congratulations, Dan.
Thank you.
Very romantic, though, because that's the one that carries the blood to your heart. And that is what you need in a wedding, isn't it, Dan? Heart, love.
That's right, Martin.
Yeah. Okay, so did you know wearing a white dress, where did that come from?
To symbolise the bride's virginity.
Not the fact I have. And remember, virginity is like virgin, so someone that has not had sex before, like Dan. It
I
says
will be
here
wearing a white dress to my wedding, that's for sure.
It says here it comes from Queen Victoria, who decided to wear a white dress because brides, well, the women, only wore their favourite dress before that, and Queen Victoria's was white. And everyone thought, that's good. Why don't I dress like
That
Queen
really
Victoria?
set off the trend.
Well, that's what this stupid article on the internet says, Dan.
It
so
must
it's
be true.
it's obviously true. There's my cough. Much worse than Dan's, but never mind. So the word bride, which we've spoken about a few times, which remember is the woman, in the past, do you know what that meant? This is very controversial.
I've got no idea.
It meant cook. So, you know.
Are you serious?
Well, again, this is what the article from the internet says. But that it doesn't mean that anymore. And just so everyone knows, Dan and I do not think women should cook. That is a horrible generalization that, stupid people say. But Dan and I are way too intelligent for that, aren't we, Dan?
That's right, Martin.
Okay, so now just some general questions about marriage. At what age do people get married in your country, Dan?
You mean our country?
Our country, yeah, sure. Well, I've left the country. Your shit country. Well, fucking Brexit and stuff like this. Your shit country. What age do people get married over there?
Late 20s.
You reckon?
I don't know, 30s? What do you think?
I'd say early. Yeah, about 30 actually. Let's compromise. Okay. Let's say 30.
Neither me or you are anywhere near getting married either, are we?
Well, that was my next question. Do you think you will ever get married, Dan?
I don't know. Hopefully.
I'm sort of against marriage. I think it's a bit of a waste of money.
I knew you were going to mention the money thing. You are tight.
Remember, tight is someone who doesn't like spending money. I don't really see the point. For me, it's like an old religious tradition that people just follow just because they've got nothing better to do. But what is the point in spending all that money to just say, now we have some paper that says we are married? Before, normally, the couple live together. Normally they have lived together for many years. I mean, is it necessary to spend like £20,000 just to have dinner with your friends?
One of my friends actually got married in Vegas last month.
I found out that's the most popular wedding venue in the world, Dan. So your friend was not being original about that. He was just doing what most of the world do.
Would you get married in Vegas?
I wouldn't get married full stop.
You're
unless,
really not going to get married?
Well, if I was with a woman, which is very unlikely, but if that situation did happen...
And you could convince her to marry you.
Yeah. No, but if she was, really keen to get married, then I would probably do it. But only because she, would ask me.
Would you spend £20,000 on a wedding?
Nah, no way. We'll go to Vegas. Anyway, that is all we have time for today, Dan. Remember, if we're not married by the time we're 40,
which we won't,
then I think, which we won't be, then maybe we can get married.
No, I don't think that's a good idea.
We'll talk about it again when we're 40. Okay. Thanks very much for your time, Dan the Man.
See you later.
Okay, so that was Dan the Man and I talking about weddings. There's a lot of wedding vocabulary there, like bride and groom. Remember, the bride is the woman, the groom is the man. To get pissed, which is what us English hooligans do at weddings, drink a lot and take our shirts off. And if you go to the website, there is actually a picture of me at a wedding with my shirt off. Very rock and roll. And we have a stag party, which is the party for the men before, and then the hen party for the women. We have cough again, which is what I was doing just then. Piss the bed is something I forgot to mention, which is when you do a piss in bed, but we just say piss the bed. To ruin is a way to say destroy. Dan said, I ruined my friend's wedding when I took my shirt off. That is not true. He loved it. And so did his grandmother, who was dancing with me. We also had the best man, which is, I forgot to mention that before, the person that does the funny speech and is usually the brother or the best friend of the groom. We had vein, which is what connects different parts of your body to your heart to give it blood. Virgin, remember, someone that's never had sex. Dan. And if you're interested, who sang those songs, the first one is Mark Morrison, Return of the Mac, and the second one is obviously the Bee Gees, Staying Alive, which is a seriously big tune. Anyway, so thanks for listening to two people that know nothing about getting married talking about getting married, and we will see you again on Monday, or speak to you again. Remember to tell your friends about the podcast. If you want to leave me a review, I will like you more than I like you now. I already like you all a lot now, but if you leave a review, I will like you even more. Okay, so have a great weekend and keep on rocking, baby.